Welcome to this tutorial on how to crochet my Jumbo Mario Brothers doll. I love handmade things ever since I was a little kid. I love to crochet. I've been crocheting a very long time. I make my dolls by looking at a picture and starting with the feet and then making notes as I go. I don't really follow general rules for crochet when I make dolls. I just do whatever produces the outcome that I want. So in case my instructions are confusing, that's what this tutorial is for. And I call this line the jumbo line because I make them with bulky lion brand yarn. And as you can see, it produces a pretty big doll, but you can always downsize them by switching to worsted weight and using the H8 5mm crochet hook as your primary crochet hook. To download the free pattern, go to lydiahawk.com. I'll put a link in the description as well. The menu link for patterns is at the top. Just scroll through until you find it. And once you know how to make Mario, you can make Luigi easy. If you like my tutorials, please subscribe. As long as people are watching and enjoying these, I'll continue to make more. I'll make one on Yoshi as well. You'll need a size L11 8mm crochet hook, H8 5mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle, a stitch marker, or a loose piece of scrap thread is also fine, scissors, doll stuffing. You'll need 8 skeins of yarn. From the Woolies line, you'll need black, cranberry, cobalt, and fisherman. From the Hometown USA Lion Brand line, you'll need Billings chocolate and New York white. For the worsted weight, I have Red Heart soft white, and this is from the Caron line, yellow. We're going to start with Billings chocolate for his shoes, but for the purpose of this tutorial, for anyone who's new, I'm going to use yellow yarn because it's easier to see what I'm doing with the lighter color. You usually want to leave a nice long tail for weaving in the end. So we're going to take our piece of yarn like this. Right at the end here, we're going to flip it so that the shorter piece is on the bottom. Go into the top with your index finger and your thumb and pull that top piece of thread through. This is a slip knot. Whether you crochet or knit, you'll start with a slip knot. Since the end is going to be inside the doll and I don't want to waste yarn, I'm going to go with a really short end. No one's going to see it. I don't have to weave it in. So just put that around your crochet hook, tighten it, weave the yarn through your hand for tension and control, and you're ready for the next step. With color A and L hook, chain 4. So you're going to wrap new thread around the crochet hook and pull it through 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch into first chain, forming a ring. First chain is at the very bottom. So we're going to go into that space, that 1 chain space, and slip stitch, which is wrapping new yarn around, pulling it through both the chain and the loop on your hook. Now we've got a ring. Single crochet 4 into ring. So we're going to insert our hook into the center of our ring, wrap new thread around, and pull it through so you have 2 loops on your hook. Now pull new thread through both. That is 1 single crochet. We're going to do that 3 more times. Now we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet, which is this one. And go through both loops and pull it through both. Now if you're new to crochet, before you start your ring, if it helps, you can actually go ahead and place a marker so you know where to slip stitch. So we form our ring and then place a marker around the loop on the hook, just like that, and then single crochet 4 into the ring, that's the one we slip stitch into. So remove it, make sure you go through both loops, and then we're going to chain 1, just pull new thread through 1 time, and place our marker. Two single crochet into slip stitch space just worked. This will allow us to keep a straight seam as we move along in rounds. So typically when you're working in the round, your seam will travel as you go and it will curve naturally. We want our seam in the back to be straight. So in order to do that, we're going to have to work our slip stitch single crochet space. So it says 2 single crochet, which means that we're going to work a single crochet into this stitch twice. So 1, 2, and then 2 single crochet into each of next 3. So we're going to do that again 3 more times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we should have 8 total. Move your marker, slip stitch, chain 1, and place your marker again. 2 single crochet in slip stitch space just worked. Continue working slip stitch space as first stitch for every round unless otherwise specified. So we're going to do that again. The very first one, the one that we just used to slip stitch into. Two single crochet into each of next 7. So we're going to have 16 total. When you do this, when you single crochet 2 stitches into 1, it's called an increase. So we're going to do that all the way around 7 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we have 16 stitches. Slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. This is the bottom of our shoe. Single crochet 1 into back loop of slip stitch space. So it says we're creating the edge of Mario's shoe. Single crochet has 2 loops. we want to go into the back loop, which is the loop farthest from us. So we'll start with our we'll start with our slip stitch space and just single crochet 1 into the back loop. My stitches are really tight. Single crochet 1 in the back loop of next 15. So we have 16 total. Slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. Round 5, single crochet 4, single crochet 2 together 4 times. So now we're decreasing, we're shaping the shoe. We're going to single crochet 2 together. And the way to do that is go through your first, you have 2 loops on your hook. Now go into the second one, pull new thread through. Now you have 3, pull new thread through all 3 loops. Say that 10 times fast. And we're going to do that 3 more times. Single crochet 4, slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. Single crochet 3. We're still working that very first spot we've already slip stitched into. 1, 2, 3. Single crochet 2 together 3 times. Single crochet 3, pulling color C through last 2 loops. So that's 1, 2, and so that the color transition is a little more seamless, the very last single crochet we're going to pull through like this. Go in, pull your new thread through, and complete your single crochet with blue. And then just make sure that you tighten the stitches, not too much. And then you'll continue with the new color. And you can go in and just make sure that the stitches are snug, not too tight. This is the leg. Single crochet 1 in first single crochet space, not slip stitch space. So we're going to go to the very next unworked stitch, not the one we just used, and we're going to single crochet 1, single crochet 7. That's 8 total. And then we slip stitch, chain 1, place a marker. Single crochet 1 into slip stitch space just worked. So we're going back to what we were doing before. 1, single crochet 7. I'm going to come back with the right shoe color, but this is about the point where you want to start putting some doll stuffing in, it'll be harder to get it in there as you go. You just want to make sure you get a solid amount in there. Not too much. You want the bottom of the shoe to be flat. Mario can stand up because his shoe soles are really nice and flat. Just a little, and then you can start adding stuffing as you go. You can also cut your color A thread and start tucking those pieces into the shoe. Round 9 and 10, repeat round 8. So we're doing 4 rows of blue, and I'm running out of blue, so this is a great spot to show you how to attach new yarn when you run out. You do exactly what we did when we switched the colors. You'll go into the next stitch, pull it through, and then you'll take your new thread, usually you want a long tail so you can weave in the ends, but again, this doll, all of these ends are inside, so we don't want to waste yarn. So you can make it short. And then after your first single crochet with the new yarn, just don't pull it too tightly, but you want it to be snug. Not too loose, not too tight. And then we'll just tuck those pieces in. And it's important to read the instructions really carefully. So on round 7, we single crocheted into the first stitch after the slip stitch space. And the reason we did that is because I wanted the first row to have a nice solid round of blue at the base, and also because of where I want the seam to end up, because of the way that I joined the legs. So we'll continue to do what we were doing before. We're working one more row, work the slip stitch space. We bind off our first leg. This is our first leg. So I'm going to bind off by, I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch. Now we have a complete leg, and to bind off you simply cut your yarn and pull it all the way through. We can add more stuffing. One fully formed leg, and it says bind off first leg but not second. So this is our first. And now make one more, but don't bind off, and we'll pick that up in just a moment. So I've done what I needed to do for the second leg. Slip stitch, place marker, single crochet into slip stitch space just worked, single crochet 1, single crochet 1 into number 8 stitch of leg 1. So if we start with this very first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we're going to single crochet into number 8. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then we're going to single crochet 1 in number 9 stitch. Then we're going to skip the first stitch next to the bind off knot and single crochet 6. Then we're going to crochet 6 single crochets into leg number 2. Already got one there, so we start here. 1. This will give us the right angle for the bead. And then we slip stitch into our marker space and chain 1 and place marker. The way that I put the legs together, there is a noticeable hole right in the middle. I'm actually going to take my tapestry needle and close that spot. Before I get too far into the rest of the leg area. I'm just going to pull that through a few times, tighten it, and now it's sealed. Single crochet into next stitch, not slip stitch space, until otherwise specified. So from now on, we're going to skip this first space. We've already worked it technically. The very first stitch is actually this one. So I'm going to single crochet 1, so 3, 1, 2, 3. 2 single crochet into next. So we're creating an increase. 1, 2, repeat from asterisk to asterisk. So 1, 2, 3, and then increase. All the way around. Round 3, single crochet 4. It's a single crochet in the next stitch, not slip stitch until otherwise specified. Okay, round 3, single crochet 4. So we'll go into the very first unworked single crochet stitch. 1, 2 single crochet into next single crochet. 1, 2, repeat from asterisk to asterisk around. Okay, that was 4 and 1 increase. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 4. Single crochet into slip stitch space just worked until otherwise specified. Single crochet 24. So as I'm doing this, if it's a bit confusing, I'm picking places in the back to keep my spot. Eventually, I will be working on his shirt and then his face, and the angle of everything is really important. One, single crochet 2, and then single crochet 2 together, and repeat from asterisk to asterisk around, pulling color C through last 2 loops. Okay, so we're going to work our slip stitch space and single crochet 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to single crochet 2 together for decrease. Remember, 1 through the first one, 1 through the second one, pull new yarn through all 3. And then I'm going to slip stitch, chain 1, place marker, and then I'm just going to go in and tighten these stitches, not too tight, just pull them snug. And then I'm going to work one round before I cut the blue yarn. Single crochet 2, single crochet 2 together. So let's start with single crochet 2. We're working into our slip stitch space. Then single crochet 2 together, decrease, 1, 2, pull through 3 loops. Single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3. And then single crochet 2 together for decrease. And then repeat 1 time. So we'll single crochet 2, we'll single crochet 2 together, then we'll single crochet 3, and then single crochet 2 together, and then slip stitch, chain 1, I'm going to go ahead and cut color B. So we can actually tie these two together to make those ends sturdier. Round 7, single crochet 1, work our slip stitch space, single crochet 2 together to decrease, repeat from asterisk to asterisk 1 time, single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2 together, Repeat from asterisk to asterisk one time. Then one more single crochet, 2 together. For a total of 9 stitches. Now that our closing here is getting really tight, just loosen that a little bit so it doesn't come undone, and add doll stuffing. Don't bunch it up too much. Get a little bit in the leg area, just nice and even, nice and full throughout. If you get it too full, you'll start to grab it with the crochet hook as you work more rows, so don't fill it all the way to the top just yet. Just right below the color C line is fine. Now row 8, single crochet 7, working our slip stitch space, and now single crochet 2 together, pulling color D through last 3 loops. So 1, 2 for the decrease, then we need our fisherman, our color D, and then we slip stitch, chain 1, place marker, and just gently pull on those stitches to make sure they're snug, not too tight. And this is a really small opening, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut color C and tie these colors together in a, not a really tight knot, but a snug knot. And then just stuff it inside. And now we are ready to work Mario's head. Ignore my notes. This is the very first pattern I created, and then I had to make Mario several times and use the first printout for corrections. So ignore anything you see here. Also, if there are ever any corrections and you have a pattern that doesn't include those corrections, you can find them on the errata page of my website. I'll also add that link below. So let's pick up where we were. Now it doesn't specify which stitch to work, whether we work these single crochet space that we slip stitched into or the next unworked, but the last instruction was to continue working the slip stitch space until otherwise specified. And I keep changing the spot because I want the seam in a certain place. So we're going to work the single crochet space we just used for our slip stitch, and it says single crochet 1, and it says 2 into next, so we're going to increase 1, 2, and then repeat around, pulling color A through last 2 loops. Right, so there's our increase, 1, 2, that makes 12 stitches, and we're going to pull color A, which is brown, or Billings chocolate, through last 2 loops. We are crocheting Mario's hair into the pattern. Another reason that I like to crochet in this way is because it makes a really sturdy doll. The less pieces you have to attach separately, the less exterior accessories you have to put onto the doll, the sturdier the doll is going to be. So we're going to single crochet his hair into the pattern, slip stitch into our markered space, chain 1. Now here you're going to want to cut your ends and then tie them and make sure they're snug. I'm going to do that one time. For the purpose of this video, I may not do it every time. It's going to save some time if I don't. So we would just cut those ends. Just snug, not too tight. Row 10 says not the slip stitch space, so we're going to, it says 2 single crochet into next, so that's an increase. So we're going to skip this one we just worked and work the first unworked single crochet. 1, 2. We're just changing our seam again. And again, this is very free form, so my apologies if it seems counterintuitive. Single crochet 2, pulling color D through last 2 loops. So the very back of his hairline. Single crochet 2, 1, 2, 2 single crochet into next, so that's an increase. 2 single crochet into next, another increase. Single crochet 4, pulling color A through last 2 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we want to end up with 14 stitches at the end. And for the purpose of maybe having to undo my work a few times, I'm not going to cut the ends. I'm just going to use the last piece used really loosely though. I don't want it tight, especially when it's going from one side of the head to the other. Two single crochet in slip stitch space. So 1, 2, single crochet 3, pulling color D through last 2 loops. I'm not going to cut my yarn because I'm probably going to have to undo my work a few times. We'll only get the right version in the video, but I miss steps here and there. Single crochet 3, 2 in next, single crochet 3 again, 2 single crochet in next, another increase, 1, 2, single crochet 2, pulling color A through last 2 loops. And again, this is where you would cut your ends, but I'm going to save time and thread by cheating. I'm just going to make that loose. I don't want it too taut between the sides. Stuffing needs to fit, and it needs to be loose inside. So we've got the base of the hair, and we've got the front of the head. Round 12. Single crochet 5, pulling color D through last 2 loops. And we're going to continue to work our slip stitch space because that was the last instruction we were given. And I'm going to continue to cheat, but you should cut the ends of your thread and then knot them as we did before down in the body. Just snug, not overly tight or overly loose. Single crochet 12, pulling color A through last 2 loops. 12. Round 13, single crochet 7, pulling color D through last 2 loops. We're going to work our slip stitch space and continue to do exactly the same thing. Cheating, not cutting the thread. Now we've got these two represent the sideburns just above Mario's ears. Single crochet 1, pulling color E through 2 loops. So now we're moving on, it's 1. Now we're moving on to our New York white. Single crochet 1, pulling color B through 2 loops. So that's the white of the eye. And then we're going to go with grabbing some scrap thread for his blue eyes. So single crochet 1 and pull color D through next. And because that fisherman's really close, it's okay if it's tight. We're going to single crochet 2, pulling color B through last 2 loops. So 1, 2, I'm going to grab B, single crochet 1, pulling color E, the white, through. Single crochet 1, pulling color D through. Single crochet 1, pulling color A through. It's 1. Make it nice and loose. Cheat and not cut the end. And then single crochet 2. And that's the other side of our sideburns. Slip, stitch, chain 1, place marker. Now if you want to pause here for a second and just take a look at everything, we've got a couple of ends here we could tie snugly. Not too tight, but just a nice little snug double knot is good. Everything looks good. The alignment is good, matches our Mario over here. Back of the head looks good. Yeah, everything looks good. Single crochet 5. We're going to continue to work the slip stitch space. Single crochet 2 together, pulling color D through last 3 loops. Should be 3, because a decrease means pulling your last bit of yarn through 3 loops. So we go through the first one, we go through the second one, and then we're going to pull color D through, and I'm going to cheat again. Single crochet 1, pulling color E through 2 loops. So we're going back to our white. So in order to get Mario's eyes to look the way they do here, you really have to pay attention to the instructions. Otherwise they don't look quite right. And this took about 3 weeks of creating the work and the rounds, undoing it, starting over. Single crochet 2 together, pulling color D through 2 loops. Single crochet 2, pulling color E through last 2 loops. 1, 2, and then I'm going to cut that because it's really close. Then it says single crochet 2 together, starting in back loop of first stitch and both loops of second stitch, pulling color D through 2 loops. So to get the eyes to match, I'm going to single crochet 2 together, starting in back loop of first. So back loop is the loop, there are 2 loops. Work the one farthest from you, pull 1 through, then says 2 loops of the second, and then I'm going to pull color D through. It's been a while since I made this doll, but I'm pretty thorough about the details, so trust me, trust the instructions, even if it seems a little wacky. Single crochet 1, pulling color A through 2 loops. Single crochet 2 together, and then we're going to work one more round before we add some embellishments. So I'm going to go ahead and cut color E and D and secure those together with a little knot on the inside. Round 15, single crochet 2, working that slip stitch area still. 1, 2, single crochet 2 together, single crochet 2, pulling color D through last 2 loops, single crochet 2, single crochet 2 together, pulling color A through. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this one so I can tie these 2 together. which you should be doing anyway. Single crochet 2, single crochet 2 together, and then just close up some of these loose ends. You don't need the fisherman anymore, so you can cut that. Before we seal up the top of Mario's head, we want to add just a couple of things. Cut color E and pause here to make and attach Mario's facial features. So we've already cut color E and color D. So now we're going to make Mario's facial features. And we're going to start with his mustache. So with color F and H hook, which is our smaller hook, we're going to chain 8. Now, we're using a smaller hook on this because I want Mario's mustache to be really tight. In order to get this to look the way that I got it to look, it takes a little effort, but it ends up looking rippled and ridged just like his mustache. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. I want a long tail on this because I'm going to attach it to his face. So flip the thread, go through the top with your index finger and your thumb, pull that top piece of thread through. Now for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do this on a larger piece of thread and a larger hook. One of the reasons I like this pattern is because it does cover a lot. It covers half double crochet, increases, decreases, changing your color. So again, you want the smaller hook and you want to use color F, which is black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8. We're going to skip the first one, which leaves 7 to work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're skipping this first one. Go into number 7 and single crochet 1. Double crochet 1 into the same stitch. So you want to go into the stitch you just worked already. But first, before you do that, a double crochet, you wrap a piece of yarn around your hook first. So wrap the piece of yarn around your hook, then go into the stitch. Then wrap new thread through, pull it through until you have 3 loops on your hook. Now you want to wrap new thread through, but only pull that through 2 loops. Now you have 2 loops left. Now wrap that thread around and pull it through the last 2. That is a double crochet, and what it creates is a longer stitch. Single crochet 1 into same stitch. So we're creating that little mustache curve. And again, this is all sort of freestyle for me. I do what I need to do to get the look that I'm looking for. Skip next chain space. Now we want to work on chain number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be sure to count them if you have to, because these chain spaces get really tight and hard to see as you work this many stitches into them. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before, which is 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, wrap yarn around first, go through, pull 1 through, you've got 3, pull 1 through 2, and then pull the last one through the last 2, and then work 1 more single crochet. And use your other fingers for leverage if you have to. We do the exact same thing, and we skip the next. So now we need to work 3, 1, 2, 3. We do the same thing until we have 4 of these. And now we have a Mario mustache. Now we'll come back with black. There we go, we've got his mustache now. Now I'm going to work the black thread, and the reason I do it with the smaller hook is because it makes the mustache nice and tight. So it's the same bulky thread, but it's much smaller. Not much, but it's definitely smaller than it would be with the larger hook. Now that we have finished the mustache, binding off at the end, we're going to set it aside. Attach bind off end of mustache to the point on Mario's face just left of his right sideburn. So I'm trying to be really specific here. Put it through your tapestry needle, and it says just left of his right sideburn. So there's his right sideburn. So right there, we're going to go in right next to that and pull that through. If you get it tangled up in other thread, just untangle it, take your time. Insert bind off tail into stitch at bottom of white stitch in front of the eye. So now we're going to go in, we're going to take this guy, and it says insert into bottom of white stitch of right eye. So right at the bottom of that stitch, we're going to go in with the other end, the bind off tail. Now they're both in there. We're going to go inside and we're going to tie a knot on the inside so this guy doesn't go anywhere. Tie and knot these ends inside of face for extra security. Line up left end of mustache so that you're attaching it to Mario's face. So you end up at the same point on the other side. The mustache should curve across, leaving room for his nose between the eyes and mustache. So let's take that longer piece. We're going to simply go in where we did over here, right next to that sideburn. On this side, we're going to go in to that stitch, bring this out, and just go into the very end there and loop it. And then go back through that exact same stitch. And there's nothing to tie that end to yet, so leave it loose and coming out of the top of the head for now. So we can focus on Mario's nose. So with color D and our L11 hook, we're going to make a slip knot. We do want a long end, we want a long tail. I'm going to cross it over this way, go in through the top, pull it through. Secure it to our hook and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch into first chain, forming a ring, just like we did with the shoe. slip stitch, single crochet 4. If you have an extra marker, you can use it if you're a beginner and you want to mark your spot. But you get used to seeing the stitches as you crochet more and more. So I don't need it. I'm going to crochet 4 single crochet stitches into the ring. 3, 4. And there's my first one. I'm going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet I worked, chain 1, and place a marker. And that's easy enough. Just use the same one if you don't have an extra one. Just make sure this loop here at the top of the head is nice and loose so you don't lose your stitches and have to go back and rework your row. Two single crochet in each around. So, and just so you know, when you're starting, you want to be able to see your stitches, but we're going to have to flip this guy inside out because we want the other side. We want the inside of this to show, but for now let's just single crochet 2 into each one so we end up with 8. So we can go ahead and flip this inside out now. And then we're going to single crochet 2 together around so that we're back to 4 and then bind off. So decrease, go into 1, go into the second one, pull through 3 loops, and then leave a long end and then bind off. Now you can use both tails for extra security. I'm only going to need one, so I'm just going to tuck this inside and add just a little bit of doll stuffing to fill his nose in really good. So be sure to knot the ends inside as you go. I tucked one end in, so I'm not going to use that one for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the center here next to the eye and bring the nose up. I can see where it is attached. I'm going to go into the second stitch here and then pull it through the next stitch on the nose. Make sure it's nice and secure. His nose is kind of stubby, so. And now, so that it's not loose, I'm going to go through this next stitch here and then a different area just below the last entry point, and I'm going to keep doing that all the way around until his nose is stable. And you can go right into yarn. It doesn't have to be a stitch opening or space. The main thing is that the nose is secure and not going to go anywhere. So now this nose is really secure. And it keeps the mustache in place, and we didn't have to do a whole lot to make that work. Now I'm going to leave all loose ends just laying out of the top of the head for now. I'm just going to go ahead and tie these end pieces on the inside because I'm going to have to attach ears and I don't want to have to deal with too much extra thread as I go. So since these are knotted on the inside for security, I'm going to tuck those in and be done with that for now. Now let's work on his ears. Color D, I'm going to slip knot, leaving a decent length at the end. We're going to chain 4, and we're going to slip stitch into the first chain to form a ring. We're going to single crochet 4 into our ring, and then we're going to slip stitch into the first space, and chain 1. You do not have to place a marker on this one because we don't want to make a complete circle. That's what's going to give Mario the impression of having what looks a little bit more like an ear. So we're going to single crochet 2 stitches into each single crochet around. We're going to bind off. And this is what a bind off looks like, in case I wasn't clear about that before. Cut your long tail and then pull it through. Now this isn't complete. It looks, because of that, to me it looks a little bit more like an ear than it would have. So on this side and this side, so we're going to attach the ear to the head. So we'll start with this lower piece of thread, the bind off tail, and we're going to insert that through the stitch below his sideburn in the front. And then with the other one, we're going to insert this into the stitch right where the second back sideburn is located. And then we're going to tie those on the inside, and you can get tight with this one. Really get in there. That's why we haven't filled his head with doll stuffing yet. Just really get in there, make sure that the ear is snug, and double tie that. And then we're going to need a second ear. So I'll come back with a second ear. Now I have a second ear, and this is how it looks right after I bind off. Now turn it inside out and bring that first piece of thread through. We want it to look like an ear, just like the other side, and for it to match, we just turn it inside out and do the exact same thing on the other side. That bind off thread goes through the stitch below the first front sideburn, and that initial piece of tail goes through the stitch where the back second sideburn is located. Now we have ears, and the only thing left is stuffing and Mario's eye accents and his eyebrows. Cut a long piece from color F and insert as shown in the picture. Tie ends and knot on inside. Use a long piece of color F to create his eye accents. So I'm going to start with the right eye. I'm going to go through that area right next to color F, leaving a bit of a tail, and I'm going to go from side to side and color that flesh tone yarn in the middle. So now he has black pupils. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And now that his eyes are filled in, I'm going to create his eyebrows. So as you can see, his eyebrows go from the edge of the white up to the very bottom of the beige color, that fisherman yarn. And then center, and then the exact same thing on the other side. So let's go in through this edge on top of the white, and then right into that beige, and then into the center, back up into the beige on the left, and then back through the center, up through the top of this one, and then that top right edge of the white on the right side, and then back through the top. And now we're going to take this end and that first end that's really close to it, as long as you didn't get your yarn tangled like I did. You got to watch out for that for sure. And to secure it, tie those together. Now we're going to put a little bit of stuffing in the top. And go back in where you were. I have to put my marker back in place. Now that we've done all of that, we can revisit the very last row, round 16, single crochet 2 together around, only working in back loops of color D. So this is color A. And we're going to work into the very next unworked stitch. Now working in only the back loops. The reason we do this is because we want that beige showing through. If we single crochet through both loops, it's going to pull the top of his head and it's going to look funny. And then we slip stitch into our marker space. And then we bind off by cutting the end and then pulling it through. Now, I want a little more doll stuffing. I just want to make sure his head is nice and full. And then we're going to take the tail and cinch that hole in top. We're going to be covering that top with a hat, but this makes it nice and sturdy. And just make sure it's closed thoroughly, and then you can leave it as is when you're done. It's going to go into the hat. Next we're going to work on Mario's arms. So with color C, we make our slip knot and chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to slip stitch into the first chain. We're going to chain 1. We're going to place a marker. It says make sure not to twist stitches. A way to make sure you don't do that, because we're going to work in the round, but we're going to do it a little differently than we had been. The one way to make sure you don't twist your stitches, after you chain, just directly go into that first chain. and slip stitch. And that ensures that you have not twisted your stitches. Your chain is straight. Single crochet 6. So we're going to go into the very next chain space that needs to be worked. So we'll go into the very next one and we're going to single crochet 6. 1, 2, and then we're going to slip stitch into our marker space, chain 1, and place our marker. Now it says single crochet 6, slip stitch, bind off, leaving long tail for attaching to body. So we'll do this again. We'll go into the very next stitch that hasn't been worked. 1, 2, 3, slip stitch, and bind off. We make 2 of those and set them aside. So Mario's hands. Along the chain area of arm 1, slip stitch with collar E into first chain space, chain 1, place marker. So the reason I'm doing it this way, chain stitches are 1 loop. If you go into the chain space under the first 2 stitches, it can be not as sturdy stitches to use for attaching to a body, but bind off stitches are pretty sturdy. So I want to use the sturdier bind off stitches to attach to the body, and the chain stitches for the hand. So I'm going to start in this very first clean chain space and slip stitch color E, which is white. So I'm going to take the white, doesn't have to have a long tail, I'm going to pull it through, and then I'm going to chain 1 and place a marker. Then it says round 1, single crochet 6, slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. So 1, 6. And just pull that end tight. Slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. If you want to just loosen that and then pull those colors through, go ahead and pull that tail through so you can see what you're doing. You're not getting hung up on that as you continue. Then it says chain 2. Counts as first half double crochet. Half double crochet 1 into slip stitch space. So since this counts as the first and we're going to work into the exact same stitch, that'll count as an increase. Now our double crochet was wrap the yarn around, go in through the stitch, pull new thread through, And then we pulled 1 through 2 and then 1 through the last 2, but for a half double crochet with 3 loops on the hook, we're going to pull 1 through all 3. It's a little bit taller than a single crochet, but it's not as tall as a double crochet. Then it says 2 half double crochet into next single crochet space. So we're going to do that again. We don't have to chain anything because chaining 2 made the first half double crochet. It gave us the height we needed to make the rest. So we loop our yarn around, go in, pull new yarn through, and then pull new yarn through all 3 loops. And we're going to do that again in the exact same stitch for an increase. So we have 4 all together. We're going to do this again all the way around. 12. And we're going to slip stitch through that 1 chain space, which means we go through 2 loops, but there's 1 in the back. So inspect your marker space if you have to see what I mean. And then chain 1, place marker, single crochet 2 together around 5 times, should be 6 times I think. And then bind off, leaving a long tail for closing the end of the hand. We've got a pretty decent size hole there. So we're going to take our tapestry needle and we're just going to go in and close it up by going around the edge into each stitch. And then finally just through the end and down the middle. Add doll stuffing. You really don't want to spare the stuffing on the arms. You want the arms to be nice and strong, so until that is nice and full, take the longest tail with the tapestry needle. You're going to want to go in right around here on the blue. So it's going to be below the red line. So basically, probably that stitch just below the red. And then just go into the very next one. Leave our seam here in the back, this spot. Now from here, we're going to go into the complete opposite side of our arm, go through one of those bottom stitches, and then methodically work our way around, working back and forth across the width of the arm. And, you know, undo your work and redo it when you're not happy. You do not have to settle for anything, and just keep doing it until the arm is in place and not loose or open anywhere. As a general rule, always leave a nice long bit of thread. Once you get used to crocheting and making dolls and weaving in the ends, you'll get a good sense for how much thread to leave on your tail. Always start with a little more than you need at first. And one trick, if it's too short, say this were shorter and I needed to put it back through one more time, you can always put your tapestry needle in first and then take the shorter end and weave it in right at the last second. So for my dolls, since I can't really get to the inside to secure the thread, I just make sure that I use the end to secure it as much as I possibly can, and then right at the last second I'll pull that last piece of thread through really tight and then cut it at the edge and push it back in. Now I've got two, so if I wanted an extra secure arm, I just do it again with this other end and then hide anything that doesn't look quite right. Like right here at the edge, there's a little bit of blue poking through, so I'll try to cover that. But otherwise, I think we've already got his arm nice and secure, so I'm going to do what I did with the other end and just finish it. Now I can cut it and do the other arm. So just in case the beginning of that last bit was off, so now Mario has arms and he's got everything except overalls and his hat. So let's work on the overalls next. With color B and L hook, we're going to chain 3. So let's do this nice long piece. And we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to work rows back and forth and create these straps that go front to back to create his overall straps. We're going to skip the first chain space, which is the one right next to our hook. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the first one and then 1 into our first chain space. So if I wanted to use this as a measure, when you single crochet into a chain space, you can go through the top, but it's good practice to go through the top 2 pieces of yarn. So there are 3 altogether. There's 1 in the back and there are 2 on top of it. You want to go through the first top 2. So the 1 on top and the 1 in the back, and single crochet 1. It makes your first row of single crochet stitches sturdier. There's less of an opening along the bottom if you do it that way. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn. So then we go into that very first space, first workable single crochet 1, and then single crochet into the second one. chain 1, and turn. That was row 2. We're going to do this 7 more times. We want 9 rows all together. So row 3, we're going to bind off, leaving a nice long tail for weaving in and attaching to the body. So as you can see here, I skipped ahead. My instructions actually say to create the overall, then to create the button, and then attach the overall straps to the body. So I've got one here that's already attached, so that'll be interesting because sometimes it happens. Sometimes you jump ahead. It's easy to do. I do it all the time. So we're going to take color G. We're going to create our slip knot. Got a long tail here. We're going to take our H8 crochet hook, or 5mm crochet hook. And we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and slip stitch into the first chain space. Single crochet 6 into the ring. We're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet space, first one we made. Then we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to single crochet 8 more into the ring. This creates a button. So right now on the other side we've got what would constitute a small button. We're going to make it a little bigger, but we're not going to single crochet into these. We're going to single crochet into the ring again. So 1, 2, and it's okay if you pass the spot where you started. Mainly we just want to make sure we've got a nice round even button, and then we're going to cut our long tail and bind off. Now the reason you want to make this first and then attach it to your overall strap before you attach your strap is that you want to make sure you get it attached really well to the strap. So we'll take our longest piece of tail here and we're going to find a spot close to the bottom. We're not going to cover that edge. We're going to need that to attach to the body. Then we're going to go in behind it and then go around and through the center until the button is attached really well. And we're going to do that with both, so we can tie the ends on the inside of the strap. So once that's done, we'll tie this on the inside into a double knot and then trim the ends short. And then we can attach the strap to the body. So I'm going to start in the back, here to here, and then through the edge here to secure it. And that means that the front will be able to go in the same spot in the front and be even. So right in front where I want that first strap to go, I'm going to go through the first stitch that I want it in, and then through the front, and then through this side, and then out the back again. I just want it to be really secure. I can't tie the ends from the inside of the doll, so I'm working with what I've got. So that's pretty good. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the other end and just make sure it's nice and tight. So once I'm happy with the placement, Mario's needs a little more stuffing, I think. Once I'm happy with the placement, I can cut the ends. Now on this side, I did not attach the button first, but that's okay. So now I'm going to go in and figure out how to attach this after the fact. So it looks like I can probably manipulate my tapestry needle to go through into the blue and at an angle to go back up through the center. It looks like that's going to work nicely. Might just have to play with it a little bit, but technically I should be able to do that. And then go through the very back of my strap and tie it from underneath, and then cut the ends. And then just tuck them in underneath. Yeah, looks pretty good. Before I get to the hat too, I'm really unhappy with the amount of stuffing. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to work stuffing in through the stitch holes. Pencil end has a grip that's really great for working more in. I'm going to go in at different places too, so the stuffing is where I want it to go. Really just needs to be. Mario's a little plump. Luigi's a little thinner. So it's okay if Luigi looks a little flat, but not Mario. Mario needs to be round. Now we need to make Mario's hat. We don't have to leave a long tail in the center because this is the center of the hat. So I'm going to make the tail a little shorter. It says chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch into chain space, first chain space, forming a ring. Round 1, single crochet 4, 1, and slip stitch into the first single crochet we worked, chain 1, and place marker. Now we're going to increase by single crocheting 2 stitches into each of the 4 stitches around, and we're going to just work the very next single crochet that hasn't been worked. So 1, and we're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and place marker. We're going to do the same thing for round 3 and increase until we have 16 stitches. So 1, 2, slip stitch, chain 1, place marker. This is really how you usually want to work in the round. You want to work the very next stitch that hasn't been worked, and as you go, your seam will travel in a curve. Round 4, single crochet 3, and then 2 single crochet in next. So we're continuing our increase, but we're doing it a little more incrementally now. So single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we need an increase in the next one, so we'll crochet 2, 1, 2, and we're going to repeat that until we have a total of 20 stitches. Round 5, we're going to single crochet 4 and then 2 for an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. For round 6 and 7, we're going to single crochet 24 and then pick this up again on round 8. So after round 6 and 7 of just single crocheting 24, what we have is the top of a hat. So row 8, we're going to single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to single crochet 2 together, 1, and pull through 3 loops. So we have a top. Now we're going to shape the edge of the hat that goes around his head. And we're going to repeat that around until we only have 4 stitches left. So the last 4 stitches, we're going to just single crochet 4. And now we're going to bind off, leaving a long tail for attaching to the head, so even longer than we normally would. So for Mario's hat brim, this is the back. So it says with color C and hook L, slip stitch into front right of hat, top of hat facing you. So with the hat facing you this way, just fold your hat in half relative to that back piece, and then count. We're going to single crochet 8, so count 4 over, 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here, I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet 8 into the front loops of the stitches. This creates the brim. If we single crocheted into both loops, then it would just point down into his eyes. So we're just going to go into that loop closest to us and single crochet just into that front loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. It says skip the first stitch, single crochet 6. So I'm going to skip the one that I would normally work right here and single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, into both loops, 5, 6, and then I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space from the row below, and then bind off. You could place a marker there if you wanted to. Once you slip stitch into that first space and then chain 1, you could place a marker. It wasn't in my instructions to do it that way, but basically what it does is it creates a little bit of a curve on the brim, so it's not square. Now we're going to create the decal for our hat. So we're going to take color H, slip knot, and with a smaller hook we're going to chain 4, we're going to slip stitch into the first chain space to create a ring, then we're going to single crochet 6 into the ring, and then slip stitch into a very first single crochet we made, chain 1 and place our marker. And we're going to work the decal the way that we worked the hat, so let's pick up with that at the very end. So at the end of the decal, what we have is a nice round space for creating the M that goes in the center of Mario's hat. So we ended with 18 single crochet on round 3. So now we want to take our tapestry needle and we want to attach it to the hat right in front. Right in the center of the brim area. And we'll just go all the way around. It doesn't really matter where we start. In fact, I think what I like to do is start with the center, find the exact center, and put that center tail piece through first. Just kind of hold it in place. Then take the outer tail and go around the edge, stitch by stitch. Just nice and clean all the way around. If you find you don't have enough thread to go all the way around, you can use that center piece to finish. You could also skip a few if you need to. And you might pull some of the red through. You'll just clean that up later. I'm not sure I have enough, so I'm going to finish with this area right here, very close to the end. And then use the center piece to just pick up where I left off. Might even backtrack just a little. There we go. And then I'll tie these to make it secure. I'll cut the ends and then move on to the M. Now if you have some thread that's loose enough and long enough, if you have some thread that's long enough, you could potentially weave your end back through to the point where your decal is and use it, but I'm just going to cut a new piece of thread and make the M. Make it nice and long. Now we want to make sure it's centered. So as you can see, this M is pretty centered. I'm going to start in the middle. And pull it most of the way through. And I'm going to gauge it by this guy. I'm going to start in this top corner, right here. It's the top of my M. And then I'm going to find the spot right down here. And then come up and join it. It's a little far. I'm going to find another spot for that. A little further in. And do the same thing on the other side, keeping it as symmetrical as possible. As you can see, it can be hard to gauge exactly where to go. Thought I had a good bead on that, but apparently not. Not exactly right. Let me try this one more time. I think I'm going to need to go through the thread in order to find the right spot, because there's not a stitch that's perfectly symmetrical. So sometimes you have to undo your work until you're happy. And it's not perfect, but it's perfect enough for me. I'm going to go inside the hat and tie off these ends. And then I'm going to weave in the brim ends. So when you weave in ends, which is what you typically have to do at the end of a crochet project, you just want to go onto the wrong side. So this would be the right side. The abbreviation for that would be RS. You want to go into the wrong side. WS. You want to take your N And you want to weave it in following the pattern already established with the thread. There are different ways to do it, and there are a number of really good books on all of these techniques. I'm just doing a very loose weave in here, but basically you want to secure the end of your thread within the pattern so it doesn't come unraveled, and then cut it. And there are actually lots of different theories for weaving in ends. People like some people like one way over another. Since you're not going to see the inside of this, I'm just randomly putting it through stitches. But with a garment where you might see the other side, you want to make it nice and attractive. So now we have our hat complete. We're going to take our tapestry needle and this really long end, and we're going to attach it to his head. I'm going to make sure this guy is out of the way. I'm going to make sure I like the way it sits on his head first. I want to see his eyebrows. I want to be able to see the top of his head. And then the back, I want to be able to see the bottom of his hairline. So I'm going to start back here. I'm going to go through. I'm just going to push that tapestry needle to the front top right up here. Right above that beige line. And then get a stitch at the front of the hat. And pull it tight. And then I'm just going to keep going back and forth through the hat and his head until I'm happy. And cut the ends. And there you have a Mario Brothers doll. This guy does not have enough stuffing. Since I have been focused on pointing him towards camera, I have not been paying attention to that detail. He looks great, but he needs more stuffing. He needs to be filled out and plump like this guy. But this is what your doll should end up looking like. Thank you very much. If you like my tutorials, please subscribe to my channel. If there's anything on my website that you would like to see made in a tutorial, hit me up in the comments or through the contact page of my website. Anything that's free. My flat caps and walking hats take a long time to make, and I develop those myself as well. I have to charge for those, but anything that's free that you would like to see a tutorial about, please let me know. Thank you so much, and happy crocheting!